The end of it all. It's over, isn't it? Why can't I? Yeah, let's move on. So I re-recorded myself, and then I thought, oh wait, no, I spoiled it. So I'm not yet. And also, sorry for one, um, the Steven Universe reference. I said this in the last time we recorded, and I accidentally spoiled myself. Was like every time I hear the end, it's over, isn't it? Why can't I move on? Which is a Steven Universe reference, very forced. Also, sorry, I know I can't sing. I acknowledge that. But this is going to be a bit quick. Not going to be the biggest part. Will be the spoilers, which I like and I find interesting. There is one thing that I am going to say, which I'm definitely going to point out. Um, but I definitely find this fun. And the one thing I would say, which is, I like how they slowly. I'm not going to go too much detail, not spoiling myself again. This is not spoiler. I think how they wrap up certain characters, how they get everything neatly sewn together, neatly wound up to round everything up, I think is really good and really enjoyable. How they sort of put all of it together, which I think is fun. Definitely with like some characters, this and that, I think is 100% fun. Now, for the spoiler stuff and the other stuff. So I'm gonna go good. The two things I like is with wrapping all of this up, because besides if they take this in a way, because they seemingly have in part one the person who does come back, the sort of like thief character who was pretty important in that one, and then in this one has an important role, helps the team, does all this up, which I think is really fun and really interesting. Um, if they do something with her character, the same. And by the way, I haven't seen either any of the John Wicks or Ballerina. Fully acknowledge that. But like what they did there, whereas like a character was introduced, the sort of Ballerina character, I don't know if they're going to do that. So I'm going to hold off and say it like, oh, it'll be really interesting to count, because I don't know if they will or won't. At the moment, I don't think they're going to make any more, even if they do any spin-off like that sort of vibe, where it's basically, I don't know how you would do that. I think it'll be interesting, sort of like do a movie in the Mission Impossible series, but not with Ethan Hunt, because I think it's. Let me just double check. Why am I forgetting the main actor? I don't know. Mission Impossible is what I need. Okay, let me just cast. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is getting up there in age. He is 62, which I'm not going to be like, oh no, you cannot play him. But I would like to point out some of the stunts that he does in this are a lot. Definitely this one where he is jumping and doing a lot of stuff with a plane, which is, I don't know how they did it fully. The way that you see a lot of this is mostly um, live act. It's mostly like sort of like they do it rather than just be like CG everything. But I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna like do that. But for the assumption of this is the end, and I do like it. It does leave the idea of like, and then the world continues, because I'm fine with that. It's some more of a thing of like, the other one that I'm just going to quickly mention. There was Ever After High, that did a whole series with Netflix, and it was really fun. It was cancelled. I'm not going to claim why, but it was cancelled for a specific reason, and it didn't go anywhere. And I'm fine with it. I don't think we're going to get any more of it. If that's a different reason, this is they ended on their terms. I don't think, did. But they sort of went into a situation and carried on. I think it's good to be like, and then it just goes. and then the mystery continues. There might be other stories. Who cares? I think it's really fun. I think it's really interesting where certain series have these characters where it's like, and then there's other missions that happen, but we don't need to worry about that. I do love that in the last movie, you have this big bad who is the evil guy being like, I'm here, I'm being evil. And one of the things that happens, which is really interesting, is at a certain point, he just doesn't. He stops the evil. He's no longer evil. Well, not that he's no longer evil. I was about to stop recording, and I'm like, no, I'm re-recording over it. Is that he's no longer with the big evil. He is just there. And the AI, who was helping him in the first movie because he effed up, kind of betrays him. Definitely when there's a point where they close the door. You also have Lufa. Lufa dies. And it's so interesting. But Lufa's been here from day one. And his death, I think it is meaningful. It shows the impact of this. You also had the last one where they killed off sort of like the British spy. But this, I think, is a bit more because it's been there since day one. That's some of the things I do like. I definitely like how they sort of like bring together and sort of try and slowly put all of these together alongside these things. They do the thing of like, oh, one person doing one thing and one person doing another and try and connect the two things together, which does eventually work and it is interesting. I also like the idea that you have the story and then you have them being like, no, turn off this. And it's really interesting. And it's all about counting down so that this no longer about this. And I think it's really interesting. I also like the idea that like people join the AI. Now, a little bit of one thing that I'm going to say. Most of the movie and most of it, I do like. I am going to point out one thing though. One thing. Because the way the last one was, it was part one. And besides the threat being the somewhat same, it doesn't feel like a part two. That's not really a bad thing because realistically, the only thing that sort of connects these two movies is there is the same evil. And I've seen sort of like film ideas where it's like these three films are one continuous film, but the bad guy's the same. And it's fine. Same with like TV series. TV series has a lot more to do with. The only thing that these are connected, obviously with the same characters in this, but it doesn't feel like a part two besides because it feels different to what part one was, in my opinion. Part one feels like a standard Mission Impossible, while this one really feels like, okay, let's grab all the 6 films together and then put all the things. Definitely when you get the villain of the first one, his son comes back. You get the guy who he stole the thing off and then he has a thing back. So he comes back from the first movie. I don't know if it's the same actor. But all of it I think is really fun. But it is one thing that I would want to point out. It doesn't feel like a sequel to the last one. It's not that bad, but it is something that I did see and I did notice. So yeah. So yeah, that was a lot. I do think it is a good ending to the series. I don't know if they're going to do what Ballerina did with John Wick. I don't think they are, but just saying. Highly doubtful that they do, but it is a good way to wrap up the series, end it all with a nice bow, and it is really good and really entertaining. Also, accidentally had 16 again for Moriarty 16. Had an F up. Need to fix that. But yeah, Moriarty 17. Nearly over. I hope you enjoy, and good night.